Alright, what's up guys? So we're about to install these N-Fab Nerf Steps onto a 99 GMC Suburban K1500. I just got back from the exhaust shop this morning. I had to have the, this is a rough country 6-inch lift, so I had to have the driver's side downpipe before the cat redone. I'll show you that in a second. To allow for the driveline to be put in, which I haven't put in yet. That'll happen later on. Right now the task is getting these Nerf Steps in, so I've used a couple jack stands with some of the packing that they came in and got them dry fitted right now. The instructions call out for having to grind away some of the pinch weld where the bolts go in so that the brackets will sit flushly. I'll show you right now. I've got them held up with some vice grips. And I'm going to mark where the grinding needs to be done, and then we'll get on to the next step. So I saw another video on YouTube with the same truck. I can't remember the YouTuber's name, country something. I'll put it in later once I find it. Anyway, so we're going to see how this works. Hopefully I have a better experience than he did. These are the same part number. Here's a picture of it. I got the textured version. And let me get my fat ass underneath this thing and I'll show you what's up. Okay, so here we are under the truck. I got a vice grip on there, and the instructions call to pull away some of that pinch weld in the back of the jaw there. As you can see, the bracket's not going to sit in there right until you get that flat. So basically you want to take just this little piece off right here, make it flat with the rest of the pinch weld. And the way these work on these your trucks is, see, that'll scoot forward once that pinch weld's out of the way, or the lip is. And the way these work is you've got two fasteners that go through this tab from under the pinch weld, and then you've got a cantilever. There's a little bit of gap there now, as you can see. And so what happens is you put weight on the bar on the step, and it sort of uses the mounting platform as the pivot point and puts weight. Since you're putting downward force, it'll put weight on the cantilever up against the inside of the body there. And so that's how it works. You got 3 different mounting points. I think I can give you a better shot here. Yeah, so that's the pinch weld. You got to take that lip off, so I'm going to mark those, and the cantilever, and then the front mount. Same deal. It's just 3 sets, 6 bolts. They give carriage bolts. A lot of guys don't like carriage bolts. I've checked the carriage bolts against these mounting holes, and you know how carriage bolts have the square retainer on the inside of the head to keep them from spinning. They do not fit in that hole without spinning, so they're too small. So I'm going to use them to see if I can't get them torqued down. I think they call for like 22 foot-pounds, so we'll see how that works. But anyway, so I'm going to mark these with a Sharpie, pull the bar down, grind those off, put some paint on them to prevent rust, because as you can see, well, my undercarriage has some dirt from road grime. There's bare spots in the paint, or, you know, there's no rust on this truck. 185,000 miles, not a speck of rust. But, you know, the rocks chip away that shit that's underneath, so there's a good one right there. Whatever coating they put on there is gone in some spots, but it's been like that forever. I guess GM did some galvanized bodies back in the day, and I'm lucky to be one of them. I think they did it for 4 or 5 years, if the rumors are correct. Alright, so I'm going to get these marked, and we'll get some grinding done, get some paint on, and we'll dry fit these again and start tapping some holes. Be right back. Alright, got the notches cut. Give you an idea what's involved. Get this from the outside. You can see just under. You just got to take that little lip off in 3 places. So that's cut. So now I'll put a little paint on it. I've got the center punches already marked for my holes to cut in. And throw some paint on it, make sure we don't get any rust, and then I'll get these suckers mounted up on this side, or drilled and mounted. I did notice that there is about 1/8 of an inch difference on the middle bracket right here, the cantilever hitting the inside of the body versus the other two when I had it held up with vice grips. It would seem that that other YouTuber probably was right. Their jig's a little bit off, but it's so minimal. I'm gonna make it work. Cut these a little off center, so I'm gonna make these work. Be right back. Alright guys, I went ahead and finished up the driver's side. I figured I'd pick up on the passenger side. So this is a Suburban. If you guys with the SUVs have rear air conditioning and rear heating, you got to contend with all this bullshit. That's the front of the vehicle. So you got your heater pipes coming in there, and you got your air conditioning lines coming in here, and they're all tucked up nice and neat in there. You see those brackets, and so the heater hoses, some light in there. Heater hoses have a bracket. They're malleable. They're soft metal with rubber, and then so do the air conditioning lines. And where they meet up at the mounting point, you see that hole right there. Get my light in there. You got to get both the heater hose and the air conditioning line, the Freon line, both tie into the same hole, so you got to get them together to anchor them down. Now the instructions say, all the way through, the instructions say that you're going to pull this crap out of the way 6 or 7 inches per the paperwork, and mount your step, and then put this shit on the outside of it. I mean, that's doable for the air conditioning, but I guess, but if you're going to be out wheeling this shit, you don't want that stuff kicking up into your hoses. So the heater hoses, forget it. You ain't getting those outside of the brackets at all. So here's what I did. There's nothing to it really. You just got to shimmy that shit around. You have to, the one bracket in front right there that's by itself for the heater hose, it doesn't have the AC lines because these flex hoses come in there, right? Front of the truck, passenger side. You just got to twist them so that they're, because there's 2 of them. There's 2 lines, and you just got to make sure the little one's above the bigger of the 2, and they'll fit underneath the cantilever, and the cantilever will go over the top. One thing I have noticed though is that the center brackets on these, because there's 3 of them, they don't quite, the cantilever doesn't quite touch the inside body. So like right here, see that mark? There's a little bit of mark in the dirt. That's where I was dry fitting, and the cantilever nudged it there, but it sits up there above the heater hoses, like right where the body comes down. Let me see if I can do this. Whoops. Let me see if I can do this. Give me 1 second here. Come on. Great cinematography, Strauss. Alright, so up here, so this is your floor pan right here, right? And it tapers down. This is your threshold where the door is. And then this is the vertical wall, and then you come down to the pinch weld, right? So this is your vertical wall in your floor pan, or your door jamb right there that meet up. Right, that's that right angle, and so your cantilever comes in like this, and then it mounts down here, and when you put your pressure on it by stepping on the bar, I guess you could say it pivots here, and the cantilever pushes like this, and that's what stops it. That's what makes it so rigid. So anyway, you can get these underneath these. It looks like you're going to be able to get underneath too. Haven't gotten there yet on this one. The bolts that come with it, see, I haven't painted these yet. Those are drilled and ground. You ground this little lip off and drill my 3/8 after an 1/8 inch pilot. It looks like I should be able to get all this to tuck underneath too. Maybe. This is going to be the hard part right here where the flex hose comes in. So we're going to go ahead and paint these up, and then we'll fit it again and get everything loose. I've got a white truck, obviously, so I'm not too concerned about the overspray and whatnot. So basically just shooting a little bit of paint, get it up in those holes, put a little in from the backside. Alright, so now that's all nice and painted, all the cut surfaces. A little bit of drip coming through the holes, which is fine because the bracket's going to go right here over the top of all of it anyway. So let that dry, and I'll shoot these other ones, and I'll come back and see what I figured out. Interesting thing about the bar. So let me flip this over. All right, so this is upside down, right? So this is your two bolts are going to go through this tab up, and then that's your cantilever head right there. The interesting thing I find is that since on both sides, I found the center bracket, the cantilever is about 1/8 of an inch from actually touching once it's mounted to that vertical panel underneath the threshold. I find that odd. Maybe he was right, the other YouTuber, about the jig being a little bit off. I think that maybe these OBS trucks have a little bit of a bow. I haven't actually taken a straight edge to each of the cantilever heads to see if they're in line. I think I'll actually do that. I do have a nice long straight edge that'll work. So there might be a little issue there. I don't think it's going to cause any problems. It just seems odd that they're not in line. And that could be that the truck does have a little bit of bow. It could be that the brackets aren't actually set up right. So who knows? The other thing is, here's the middle bracket, and there's the other bracket. You see on the back, so the cantilever at the bottom, that's actually at the top when you mount it, right? And then there's your mounting tab. But you notice that that's just a straight bracket, and you notice this one's just a straight bracket. You know, the spine that holds all the tabs together. But the middle one has reinforcement. Now, I think all of them should have that just to make it more rigid. But that right there is going to cause a huge problem if you follow the instructions and try to route your AC lines around it, because they're going to bow way out right there. They'll be riding over that. And then what do? Vibration going down a road, that's going to wear through those lines. So let me pull this bar out of here, and I'm going to get a straight edge, and we're going to see how these cantilevers line up. Be right back. Alright, so I got the bar outside of the truck. This is the passenger side that I was just rifling around with the air conditioning and heater lines. So this is pretty much how it will sit in the truck. You've got your mounting points. This would be the rearmost mount. And then the cantilever that comes in. There's a truck, not on it. Right? Notice the angle because of the way the body curves. So basically you got your side profile of the truck, and it rolls in, and then it sits, right? So that's why that's at such a strange angle, because it's going to mount into the body, the bottom of the rocker panel, I guess, if you want to call it, right? And then you've got the center one with that reinforced back I was trying to show you while it was upside down on the ground. Not a solid weld. Notice the joint. A little bit high on top, flush on the bottom. Yeah, what are you going to do? Hard to find good welders nowadays, I guess. They'll get paid what they're worth. And then there's the front mount. Alright, so I've got it on a 2x4 propped up. Got my straight edge. And I guess the trucks are straight and their jig is off. So I'm going to get the name of that guy on YouTube, man. And I'm going to tag him in it so we can get this squared away. I have not had the trouble that he has had. And I'm definitely not as upset. I've got another part that I've noticed that I have an issue with too, that I'm just going to make do with, which irritates me more than what I'm about to show you. So here's our cantilevers, and these will be touching the inside of the body when weight is pushed, right? I mean, they pretty much just sit there anyway. So I've got my straight edge. So put it up against the rear and the front mount, right? So those are touching. But look at that. I'll be damned. That is exactly how much space I have while it's dry fit in the truck. Same as it was on the driver's side. So it looks like our other YouTube friend was right. Their jig is definitely jacked up. So we got touching there, and not touching there. That sucks. So what do? I guess you just make do. I don't know, maybe, you know what, I got a funny feeling that those guys at N-Fab will say, well, that's for a little bit of flex, you know, and that's why we reinforce that one. So if you're bearing enough weight down, you know, and this cantilever comes into contact, you know, it's reinforced, so that's as far as it's going to go. I call bullshit. I think that's some shitty engineering, or the staff over there. I gotta imagine it's a jig. I gotta imagine their jig is jacked up. Here's the part that does piss me off, though. I mean, I can live with that. It's pretty solid. I've already put my weight. I'm a big guy. I've already put my weight on this thing on the driver's side. Not a problem. It's going to be fine on this side, too. But here's what I did notice. So, they're using a jig, I would imagine. The problem that I have found is that when I fit this one up on the passenger side after I've already done the driver, it didn't seem to sit right. Like I couldn't quite get it centered on the little bit of the fender that's coming down behind the driver or the passenger side front wheel, you know, right there. So I'm trying to get a nice look where this comes in, you know, the wheel well comes in here, the little bit of fender comes in here. I'm trying to get it, you know, centered on that piece of fender. And then the same holds true for the quarter panel, right? So you got your wheel well over here, and it comes down, and then you've got your quarter panel, right? And then you got the door seam for the rear door. I'm trying to get that centered, but it doesn't look the same. So the notches that I cut for these landing pads, you know, and that little skirt underneath that you have to cut to make it flat, I measured, and that notch that I cut on the driver's side so the rear door, the back trailing edge of the rear door, it's got the gap between it and the quarter panel, and as it wraps under the vehicle, they keep that seam. There's like a seam there. So what I did is I measured from that seam to the notch I cut on the driver's side, and it was exactly 21 inches. Now I gave about 1/8 of an inch on either side, right? So I was going to use that as my guide. So I went from that door seam underneath on the rocker panel to where the cut was that I made. It was exactly 21 inches. So I dry fit this one. I put it exactly 21 inches using the same seam, same measurement before I did any cutting. I put a mark on it. I took my my vice grips and I put the sucker in place. I got out from underneath it and looked at it. It just didn't look right. It was way too forward. You know, not a lot, but enough that when you're putting this thing together, you can actually see it and you can look at it and go, that seems it's too far forward. So then I grabbed a tape. And I measured from this point all the way to this point, running into this area here so that I wouldn't include the brackets, right? So I had my tape strung across inside the brackets. And guess what? My passenger side is exactly 3/4 of an inch shorter than the driver's side, and that's why it's looking kind of funny. So what did I do? I adjusted the mounting points. I moved a little further back, and I centered as best I could on both those 2 points I was telling you earlier on the points. It's going to be fine. I'll notice it because I know it's there, but I'm fine with it. I can get over it because dealing with these pricks and sending something back like this, forget about it, right? So, N-Fab, clean your shit up over there. I hope that helps everybody. I think the paint's about dry, so I'm going to go ahead and start putting this in place and getting the rest of these bolts. These are the bolts, by the way. I think you've seen these before anyway. on other videos for these, but N-Fab gives you carriage bolts. And as I mentioned earlier, carriage bolts always have this little square piece in here, and it usually is keyed so that whatever application you're using them for, that will keep them from spinning, because there's no nut, right? You can't really grab, I mean you can with some vice grips or something, but they're keyed so that they go into a square hole, and then you can torque them down and this side won't spin as you're getting the nut down on it tight. Well, as I mentioned earlier, the holes that they provide, this is exactly how it sits on the truck. Now watch that. See? The holes are wider than the square key. So on the driver's side, when I was reefing them down, getting them down to torque, one of them spun, so that was a pain. I did use vice grips to grab just the crown of the head, kind of pinched it, held onto it while I reefed on that, and that I got it tight. The other 5, they didn't spin. I was able to torque those down. So be aware of that. I know guys have taken and gone ahead and went down to Lowe's or Home Depot and picked up some stainless, and I'm probably going to replace these because these are definitely not stainless. So these will cause rust. I'm going to get them on for now. Probably do that project next weekend. Some of you are going, yeah, he's just going to leave those on there until they rust and fuck the truck up. Well, I'm going to switch them because this shit bothers me. So, but I'll get them on for now. Get some shit. You know what? I'll probably do that this weekend. What's today's Thursday of the week, so I don't know when I'm going to have this uploaded, but it sounds like something I should do tomorrow because it's getting a little late in the day. Anyway, that's what's what. One bar 3/4 of an inch shorter than the other bar. Ain't that a bitch? All right, I'll get some final shots once I get this mounted. Like I said, the paint's probably dry now, and I'll get some final shots and put those at the end of the video. Questions, comments, concerns, hit me up. It's pretty fresh in my mind, so if you're just seeing this video right away, check the post date. Ask me some questions if you need to. The hardware that comes with it, the nuts, let's see, what am I using here? Focus on that. Maybe, maybe not. Well, it's 14 millimeter. You have to take my word for it. It fits the nuts that they give you. Some of them you're not going to be able to get to because these bars, and depending on where you did you got a bit of slack here. So if you were out on the outside, you're probably good with a socket, but this gets in the way. You're going to have to use a wrench too. 9/16, 14 millimeter. Either works. 14 millimeter is tight on the nut. 9/16 works in a jam. I'm not digging through my box with a 14. I'm unorganized with my wrenches. Oh, and the, what do we got? We got the, for the AC and the heater lines. What do I got here for that? Those were 10 millimeter. Probably can't see that shit either. You have to take my word for it. I know half of you guys probably don't know where your 10 millimeter is anyway, so you know what I'm talking about. Alright, I'll give some finals in a bit. Alright, so some of you may be wondering where I got these. I got them on eBay. This is the auction here. He's got them listed for $437.07. Here's your seller. There's 2 issues I've got with this auction. So when I did the order, I wasn't sure what I was going to get. So for my truck, a 99 Suburban, this is the particular one that I need. You'll notice right in the description, it says gloss black. 92 to 99 Chevy GMC Suburban. And when you look at it, that is definitely a gloss. Now they put it in two different black colors. They do a gloss and they do a textured. And I was actually after the textured, but this was going to be the best deal when I when I made an offer on it. You'll see that in a second. All right, so that's the first thing. I was dealing with a gloss black version of it, and at this point I was like, whatever, gloss or textured, it's going to be fine. When you scroll down in this auction and you look at the item specifics, the specifics designate that part number. Now the TX stands for textured. So this seller has got an auction that's telling you 2 different things on what you're going to get. That's a problem.
once I discovered this, I was hoping I got the textured. Turns out that I did get the textured, as you see in the video. So for me, that worked out. For you, make sure what you want, because this specific auction isn't showing what's happening accurately, right? They're listing a gloss black, and if you weren't paying attention to details, you would have got a texture black and been real surprised. The other thing I had a problem with was this. I wanted to know how fast I was going to get it. I'm in Washington State, just outside of Seattle, and I wanted to get it quick. So West Coast is usually a couple of days, and it was going to go over a major carrier, not a truck carrier, so maybe 3 days, right? So it says it was in San Diego, California. Well, when you come over here to my summary, yeah, this is where it got picked up in. Evansville, Indiana. Left Evansville, went to Nashville, Tennessee, Rockport, Wamsutter, Snowville, Utah, Oregon, and it finally made it up here to us, right? So that was on the 30th of May it was picked up, and it got here on the 5th. So it took a week when I was expecting just a couple of days. So that's a flat out lie. The item is not in San Diego, California. I thought I'd point those couple of things out to you guys and what you can offer and get. I went with this guy. 2 different attempts at it, and that was the best I could do with him. So just FYI for you. But be aware, if you go with this guy, you're going to end up with the texture ones. Read the fine print over here. And who's to say, right? I mean, I got the texture because that's what was listed, but if you're going by the item description on the big bold title you see in your listings when you do your search on eBay, you're expecting to get a gloss. And with this guy having both descriptions in there, who knows? I mean, you could get the gloss, I guess, even though you looked at it and saw a textured part number. Something to think about. I would contact that particular seller if that's the decision you make on picking it up through them and making sure you know exactly what you're going to get. I've already contacted the seller and told him about the discrepancies. Today is 6/9, and already still no change on the auction. So it is what it is, guys. Thought you should know. Alright guys, that's it. It's all done. So you can see about I guess about a third of the way into that trim right there. Roughly the same there. You're getting solid. Now you'll see the difference. So that's just short of halfway in point. And we're about, I don't know, real close to halfway there. Yeah, came out good. Kind of a pain in the ass on that passenger side. Sorry for the wind noise. A little bit of poke. It's about 2 inches front and back. Does good. All right, got any questions? Let me know. Hit the like button too, you pricks.